Sandeep, Chief Executive, Conquest Quality System Services Private Limited, situated in Tirupur. I belong to 1987 batch of textile technology. I had completed my postgraduate diploma from University of New South Wales, Australia. Conquest is involved in management consulting, quality control, and assurance of knitted garments to brands in Europe and USA, ERP development for apparel industry. I am serving as an executive member of both the Chennai chapter and the Alumni Business Council. I now invite Mr. S. Paneerselvam of JL Seagull Power Products, 1984 batch, Secretary ABC and EC member of the Chennai chapter. Mr. Paneerselvam is the brain behind formation of ABC. His untiring and enthusiastic contribution to development of ABC is something that a few can match. Over to you, Mr. Paneerselvam.
Thank you, Sandeep, for the generous comments. So I will keep it short. So I will share the one minute. Is it visible? Slides?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good evening to all alumni and those in YouTube. We welcome from ABC. I'm the secretary, S. Paneerselvam, 84 batch. This Alumni Business Council, short name ABC, started 1.5 years ago. Basically, Chennai chapter, PSG Alumni Association Chennai chapter initiated this activity, and President Ratna Kumar is already here. The main purpose of starting this, because Chennai chapter already doing a lot of programs for alumni, and we wanted to do in a focused way for the benefit of the entrepreneurs. Main purpose is to promote networking of entrepreneurs and development of entrepreneurs by mentoring, skill improvement, and throwing opportunities for the PhD alumni entrepreneurs across the world. It is not only for the entrepreneurs, existing entrepreneurs, but also those who want to start a business in future. They can also join. As I said, ABC is an initiative of PhD Alumni Association Chennai chapter. Who can become a member of ABC? Any PhD alumni living in any part of the world can join in Alumni Business Council. They can share their expertise. They can get benefited. It's a mutual support. More the merrier. How we are functioning? The Alumni Business Council, though it is coming under Chennai chapter, it functionally it is an autonomous body, you can say, though it's not a registered body. But the basic framework is formed by Chennai chapter because we are not a registered entity. And whatever the alumni entrepreneurs, they can get in touch with the ABC by through Chennai chapter. So Chennai chapter is like our immediate parent. So you see the photo behind that. It symbolically it says that only will remain like that forever. Next one, office bearers. Mr. N. Ratna Kumar, founder and director Cortec, is the president. We intentionally kept the president of the chapter will be the president of Alumni Business Council also, because always the mutual support is required. And Ratna's leadership is already helping in many ways. Today also he is participating as a panelist. I am the secretary. I am basically an electrical engineer, 84 batch. Worked in Kone elevator for 20 years. Then I started this company, electrical product distribution. It's called JL Seagull Power Products. Our treasurer is Mr. S. J. Kumar, 94 batch, MD of V Star Diamonds. And we have got, apart from this office bearer, because it's a basically entrepreneur association, every individual is very informed people. So we are having a good ABC executive committee to take critical decisions, to steer the ABC activity. We have around 12 ABC members as ABC Executive Committee members. Senior most, Mr. T. Srinivasan is already participating as a panelist, and Mr. Navneet is in 77 batch. And junior, two people, Siddharth and Praveen Kumar is there. We are having a wide spectrum of people and from different industries. So the collective thinking, collective wisdom will guide ABC to grow better. What are the different way we are engaging with the members? First one is a physical meeting in star hotels, dinner meetings. It's more informal meeting like college get together, and you can any young alumni can easily meet well experienced 30-40 years experienced entrepreneurs. So they will be able to learn the nuances of business management, and they can get a lot of connections in getting the opportunities. Next one is ABC. We have got a LinkedIn page. So there are around 140 followers. We need more. Through LinkedIn page, we are sharing the happenings of ABC. Next one is we have ABC WhatsApp group for members to share their day-to-day level, any news or any requirements on business side, they share it. Fourth one is the ABC portal. We have got a dedicated paid portal designed for such association. Basically, unlike WhatsApp group, any discussion will remain there so that any members can see the discussion any point of time. The ABC members directory will be available, and also a lot of about programs and events information will be available. Though we have started this, it's a very limited use. We have to improve the usage. Fifth one is the webinar, like what we do now. We have started. This is the first ABC webinar. Chennai chapter is conducting monthly a lot of activity, including many webinars. But ABC is starting now only. It's more focused on business side. So such webinars will help who are not able to come to Chennai. So there are ABC members in other parts of the world. So we are, and also it's more of a skill improvement, new technology area, introduction, etc. And also one more aspect is we are encouraging visiting fellow ABC members industry. For example, in Coimbatore, there are some 10 ABC members are there. They can interact, they can visit their factories and facilities. They can interact more among themselves. Likewise, zone-wise, we can operate. So we are encouraging such industrial visit and sharing in the group. So also there is one more thing which I not covered here. We have started already collaborating with other associations like Nagaratar Chamber of Commerce, and next year we will be contacting many other associations, because at the end of the day, business opportunities can come from any association. We can also contribute, like it's ABC main purpose is not only for ABC, it is for the larger society as well. So these are the various methods of developing the networking, sharing the opportunities, developing the skills, mentoring. Everything is possible through all these things. And currently we are having about membership 52 from different countries, like cities, Coimbatore, Salem, Bangalore, Hyderabad, like cities from USA, Canada, Singapore, and various location. We are looking for like Middle East, South Africa, Europe. We have to add more members. And we have a lady member also, first lady member Muthu, and we want more lady members. If you see the ABC Executive Committee, full of all males only, we need more ladies to join. I'm sure there are a lot of entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, they can join ABC. We can have 33% reservation in ABC Executive Committee also. So that will have more dispersed discussion. And the annual membership fee is around 6,000 rupees. That includes chapter fee 1,000 rupees, because we comes under the Chennai chapter. Anyone, whoever, even if you are in USA, you can become a Chennai chapter member, because we are now, Chennai chapter is also Global Outlook. So these are some photos just to share. The first one photo, the inauguration, Mr. Maharajan, Mr. George, and many other inaugurated our December 2021. Second one, Mafai Pandirajan was participating in one of the physical meeting. Radhakrishnan Nambiar and Sandeep. Ratna was one of the beach meetings. He conducted one session on OKR, objective and key results. That was a very inspiring speech, and I think he promised one more detailed on OKR. They will be very useful for many companies, I guess. And some more photos. One Miss Sarvika joined, and I think she now in IAM. I think she will come back hopefully. And Mr. Navanitha Krishnan and Alavandari is there. And Muthu is the first lady member. Recently, we held our physical meeting in Hotel Hilton, and Muthu introduced Mr. Srinivasan there. And this photo is from the beach. In March, we had in Park and Beach overnight stay and relaxing environment. We had the meeting. So we are having a lot of ideas and other things. We invite all alumni in any part of the world. Please join. It will be like an extension of college only in all meetings. It will be very easy to gel each other. A lot of trust is there. You can easily start any business interaction, unlike any other business network. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Now I hand over this to Mr. Sandeep. You will have a very fruitful seminar, a webinar. I thank Sundar, our batch from USA. He accepted for giving this very new technology based artificial intelligence. I thank him wholeheartedly. Thank you. Sandeep. Audio. Yeah.
Unmute.
Coming to the webinar today, the big changes that change the way we live and work. The first was personal computers in the 1980s. The second was the internet in the 1990s. The third was the social media. With each of these recognized, it wasn't just businesses. It changed the way we lived. It changed the way we all work. AI is the mood at the moment. Artificial intelligence has leapt from being a technical term to an online buzzword used by people in everyday conversations. From ChatGPT, changing how people approach AI since November 2022, to tech giants such as Google and Microsoft investing heavily in integrating AI into their products and services, interest in the field is soaring. The global searches for the term artificial intelligence has peaked at 100 points recently. The search interest in AI on the internet has more than doubled from 17 million in January to 14 million in May 23. The possibilities looks endless. Studies are showing that AI and ML are considered the most crucial in helping businesses achieve their short-term ambitions. The world is on the roll today. The 2023 Global AI survey by McKinsey found that 50% of the organizations have adopted AI in at least one function. This is only expected to increase due to the rapidly expanding use cases of generative AI. We at ABC thought this is the apt time to start a discourse on AI, bring in expertise, disseminate information, and how our alumni community can apply, develop AI, elevate their businesses, and ride on this incredible wave of opportunity. I have great pleasure in introducing our panelist, Mr. Ratnakumar, who is the co-founder director of Chennai-based IT services company, Car Technologies. Maran and Selva are the other founders. They are all from 1994 batch. Car Technology, a focused global SAP consulting organization and a market leader in GCC in SAP consulting, is a trendsetter among the top Indian companies, collaborating with SAP in digital transformation, implementation of ERP, and automation of core business processes using SAP's native on-prem and cloud technologies. The founders are stalwart leaders par excellence, driving a workforce of 2,000 plus strong professionals in 10 plus countries on 3,000 plus assignments of prestigious Fortune 500 global customer. Their sheer brilliance in the SAP global market, Cartech has added one more feather to their cap by recently acquiring a US-based company for USD 10 million with a huge round of $30 million private equity funds. Ratna calls himself an AI enthusiast. He's very much humble, and we all know he's much more than that. Ratna, over to you for a few words on how Kartik is getting ready for embracing AI.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for that great introduction. Really appreciate it. So my name is Ratna, and from the perspective of what we do in our company on the AI space, um, just to drive the business, we come up with any product, we suffix that with AI to start with. And then we figure out a way to try and see how we can get some models to train and get that part of it. So I have a product called Ketan.ai and have embraced the computer vision and little bit of models in terms of testing a few use cases, but I'll talk more about it. But thanks for this opportunity to come and participate in this one along with Mr. Sundar, Shiv, and Srini. Thanks, Sandeep. Over to you.
Wonderful, Ratna. Thank you. I now move on to introducing our other panelist, T. Srinivasan, who is the president for Mel Systems and Services Private Limited, a 1972 batch pass out from PSG. He, along with his son, Mr. Shiva Srinivasan, Chief Operating Officer, Mel Systems and Services Private Limited, is there as a co-host today. A professional with over 20 years of experience providing solutions in information technology and industrial automation, an alumnus of Temasek Polytechnic Singapore, Monash University, Australia, and Chennai Business School with qualifications in information technology system and business management. Shivakumar heads the operations at MELS. He has designed and delivered several industrial automation solutions, including material handling, assembly lines, end-of-the-line testing, packing solutions for customers from a variety of industries. With a strong background in software and a passion for engineering and technology, he has been part of designing and implementing large-scale multi-tier software applications for MES, tracking and traceability, and IIoT solutions for manufacturing industries. Over to you, Mr. Shiva, for a few words on your roadmap to AI.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for this introduction. And it's wonderful being part of this session today. Although I'm really not a PSG Tech alumni, but I probably think it would have been nice if I was one, seeing all these large number of people here and the ABC itself. Thank you once again. So yes, you've already introduced me, but in terms of MELS, of course, we are into electronics and industrial automation. We are more of a users of AI at the moment, I would say, but in a very, very small way. We start using ChatGPT for some content generation. For our marketing activities, we use some tools and functions within products like Canva, which can generate some images, come up with quick marketing content for us, some graphics and designs. So I think that's something that we are doing. But more importantly, within MELS, we have started working on a lot of IoT products that we are developing ourselves. And now we are integrating AI and machine learning algorithms in it as part of the solutions that we are delivering to the customer. As I speak, I would just like to take that 45 seconds to share one of the videos that we've been doing recently, right? So that also can kind of give a feel of what kind of solutions we are doing on AI. So as the screen comes up, so this is an application where we are now detecting when, let's say, a typical operator has to put his hand to identify, we are trying to say whether he's picking up from the right bin or he's picking up from the wrong bin. So we've got tools for guidance and it's going to validate. So these are tools that we are trying to develop at the moment with AI. And of course, vision is one of the more popular applications in industrial automations at the moment for AI itself. So that's where we are on AI at the moment. Thank you. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. In this first webinar of the year, ABC is delighted to bring in Dr. Sundar Sundareshwaran, our own alumni of 1984 batch EEE with MS in Neural Language Processing from IISc and a PhD in Artificial Intelligence from New York University in 1992. That was a long time ago. Dr. Sundar can throw some light on why and how he chose an area of such futuristic outlook at the time. A time where I would have been in queue to buy tickets for a James Bond movie, watching Bond using his futuristic AI gadgets with mouth wide open. Dr. Sundar has over 30 years of experience in hands-on technology development, team and project management, and business leadership. Starting his career as a member of technical staff in R&D organization, he went up the ranks to executive management with P&L responsibility. His hands-on experience includes computer vision, neural networks, virtual/augmented reality, human-computer interface, autonomous vehicles, and responsible AI. He has led his teams in research and development, and he has been a fellow at the World Economic Forum and as the president of a Japanese think tank. Currently, he is serving as AI expert at the Global Partnership on AI, where he works on responsible AI initiatives. I also hear from him that India is going to be the chair shortly, and we are very proud of India as well as you, Dr. Sundar. He is self-employed as a leadership coach and AI strategist. He can be contacted at drsundar.com. Welcome, Dr. Sundar, for this webinar, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. It's my pleasure to be here to see all my batchmates and also people from previous and later batches. Thank you very much for having me in this inaugural ABC seminar. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. To kickstart the questions, I'll just start with a very simple one. Whenever we speak about AI, the initial stages where I heard was, because I was a chess enthusiast. So at that time in 1996, I guess Garry Kasparov was beaten by a supercomputer. That's what we called. We never used the term AI. So, but later, there is a lot of development, and now we are in the midst of a rapid changing environment. Mm-hmm. And my simple question is, in the industry where I am in textiles and apparels, we are hearing a lot of the term of this AI, and every software which is being sold now is tagged as an AI software. So my just simple question is, what is that difference between AI and a software, and where is that line that has to be drawn between the two?
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep, for that question. Software and artificial intelligence are related, but they are distinct concepts. Right? When we say software, we refer to a set of instructions or programs that perform specific tasks, whereas AI refers to the ability of machines to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as learning, problem solving, and decision making, and so on. So while AI involves software, the two terms are not interchangeable because AI is quite different from how general software works. When we talk about AI, it refers to a wide range of technologies and techniques beyond software. And we will see more about the details of AI in a second. So let me share my screen here.
So Sundar, if someone is coming and telling me, hey, listen, I've got an AI software, how do I, and as there are many of us in the group who doesn't understand what AI and what software is, what should I ask them? And what should I do?
Yeah, so let me first show this. I'm going to answer your question because this may be part of the answer here. So if you look at what is AI, right? So AI refers to computer systems that can perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence, right? That's I said a moment ago. But if you look at the components, I think Shiva talked about computer vision, using it for tracking the person's hand. There's machine learning, and then there's neural networks, deep learning, natural language processing. This whole story has evolved over time, right? So it's not like we have suddenly woken up and the term AI has appeared in front of us. So let me show this other chart, which shows a little bit about the history. So if you look at, I think Sandeep mentioned this Deep Blue chess computer beating Kasparov, but that's not when AI appeared. AI actually appeared, the term AI appeared in 1956, right? And then before that, there was the concept of Turing test, which was to test whether a computer is intelligent or not. And you can see in this kind of a timeline, things have been evolving since 1950 and all the way up to 2022 when ChatGPT was introduced. So just to answer your question, Ratna, one way, we are talking about this world here. Right now we are here, 2023. Right now, the term AI distinctly refers to the ability of a system to learn from data, learn from large amounts of data. So if somebody comes and tells you, my software has AI in it, you want to ask two questions, which is, one is, how much data it was trained on, right? And then what kind of learning mechanism it uses. And we'll see a little bit more about the learning mechanisms in a minute. But that's kind of the background you want to ask if somebody's trying to sell you this kind of a system.
Sure. So generally, what would be the size of data? Sorry.
It depends. If you look at ChatGPT, the euphemism is that it has been trained on everything on the internet, right? Which is kind of untold amounts of data. Normal systems, it will depend on the application, but it is usually much more than what you think it should be, because the system, in order to adjust its internal parameters, needs enough amount of data to get to a steady state, if you want, because it shouldn't be changing, it should reach to a steady state. And so the actual amount of data depends on the application, but usually these are in the thousands or millions of records of data. That's what is required to train a system today.
Got it.
Since I have the chart in front of me and I have the table, let me just show you something interesting. So even though it started in the 1950s, it didn't quite pick up momentum until what Sandeep mentioned in terms of chess and so on. So for me, I think Sandeep asked, why did I get interested? I actually was in the Indian Institute of Science, going through the library, looking at the books, and I saw this book titled Artificial Intelligence by Patrick Winston. That's when I got interested around that time. And then I decided to come to the US for studying. But what happened is you can argue how wide this thing called AI winter is. But for me, it started right when I arrived in the US, in the sense that even though there were some techniques for doing AI, none of them were really working very well. And then so everybody was struggling, trying to make things work. But eventually in about 2014 is when the major thing happened. And I marked it here as object recognition and deep learning. That's when it was a demonstration of how the kind of video that Shiva showed, how you can recognize hands versus the bins and so on, became really robust using deep learning techniques. And that's when AI really got its legs to run. And soon after that, I put this responsible AI, it was mentioned by Sandeep at the beginning, because that has started becoming an issue, and we will talk more about it. Responsible AI is essentially worrying what AI could harm in terms of bias and transparency and privacy and so on. So right now we are in a world that is very enthusiastic about the power of AI, and at the same time, some amount of worry about how this might end up affecting humanity.
Thank you. Thank you, especially Sundar, for the timeline of the AI progress. It's been so interesting. Now I'll hand over to Shiva to proceed with his questions.
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much. So, okay, so I think we answered the very first part of the AI versus the software, but people interchangeably use words as machine learning and artificial intelligence. What really is the difference between the two? And maybe if you could throw some light on that.
Now, that's an excellent question. It's an often debated problem, but the answer is actually quite simple. Let me show this chart to explain that. This actually shows more than what you asked, machine learning and deep learning and AI. So you asked about machine learning and AI. So if you understand Venn diagrams, you can see this. Machine learning is actually a subset of artificial intelligence. So there is a limited amount of things that machine learning can do. So it is essentially a statistics tool. It is able to use statistics to fit data on a line or a curve or divide them into different groups and so on. So that's what machine learning is about. And as I mentioned, in about 2014, deep learning started taking root. And that's much broader than machine learning in the traditional definition, because it has started exploiting neural networks and training them in an effective way using data. So you can actually go from machine learning, which is essentially a function that you're learning that you know already. I know that it is a linear line. I know that these two groups of data are different. And then you're training the system to recognize that. What deep learning does is to go beyond that. You actually don't know what that function is. You only have the data and you have labeled it to say, this is good, bad, or this is a hand, this is not a hand, this is a bin, this is not a bin. And the system automatically learns that function, which is essentially a mapping from the input to the output, by looking at these examples. And so artificial intelligence today is primarily driven by deep learning techniques. There are other techniques as well, but that's the main one that we see everywhere. Since we have this chart on this on the table here, let me also talk about a couple of different things that are related. You might hear the term artificial general intelligence. Now, what that means is artificial intelligence is about performing individual tasks. Can I say the difference between a hand and the bin in the example that Shiva showed? Can I see the difference between a bird and a cat? Or, any two objects or any two concepts, right? That is abstract. That is a single task that a person or an individual system is doing. Artificial general intelligence is the ability to act like a human, not just do one task, but to reason and plan like a human. The entire end-to-end planning and execution of tasks and multiple tasks. We are not there yet. This is a concept that is being discussed. In fact, the company behind ChatGPT, OpenAI, the reason it was founded was to attack the concept of artificial general intelligence. And it is still their goal. And a lot of other companies are trying. When we have that, we will have the ability to tell a system a problem, and it should be able to figure out what tasks need to be executed in order to solve the problem. Right now, we are telling the system to solve a particular task. So this will be much more powerful. And then, of course, I draw this big dotted line. We won't talk about it right now, but there is always the concern that machine might take over. There might be a singularity event when the computers are more powerful than humans. And then the concept of consciousness. It very quickly becomes philosophical at this point. So we won't go there because that will be an entirely different discussion. So hopefully that answers your question, Shiva.
Yeah, very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. And in the interest of, it's now interesting to see where AI is. Of course, I did show a demonstration, but we have a big audience here. So are there some good examples that you can tell us where a company, again, we want to focus not on, let's say, home application of AI. I think we've got a lot of these smart assistants today, but in a business perspective, where could people use AI? Some examples where it could be used.
Yeah, that's a good question because, like you mentioned, AI is everywhere. It is in your WhatsApp, it is in Facebook, it is on pretty much every tool that you use. Even though you are not directly employing it, the systems behind those tools are using it. But your question is about, what about business applications? Where can businesses leverage this new technology? So there are many I have listed here. We'll quickly look at them and then we can talk about any of them if there is more interest. But the one that is taking off very quickly are chatbots and virtual agents. Because there's always, any business has the business and then there's a customer, and there is an interaction between these two. And a lot of times this is where businesses fail because they are not servicing the customers very well. What happens today is that today's chatbots are, of course, much more intelligent in a way that the customers don't feel that they are talking to a mechanical system that is by rote repeating what you told it, right? Because ChatGPT and other technologies have made it so powerful that you can have a fairly intelligent conversation. For example, if you have frequently asked questions, you can have a user text the question and get the answer by SMS, right? So it's possible today. That makes it much more easy for getting answers to questions. Similarly, document processing, there's a lot of documents that business generates. How do we keep track of the summary of those? What's happening? And then you also mentioned using it in marketing, where you're generating content that goes into your brochures and so on. And then there's a number which relate to kind of manufacturing type things, predictive maintenance, using sensor data to predict when a machine might fail. Using computer vision, the example that Shiva showed, fraud detection, this is good for banks and the agencies that deal with financial transactions to find whether there are any particular transaction that is fraudulent compared to the genuine transactions. Supply chain, again, manufacturing, how can you leverage AI for forecasting what you need, when you need it, when it should be delivered, making it very efficient to run a factory. Cybersecurity, detect malware and so on. Then personalization, if your customers want products in a certain way, how can you deliver them in a personalized way? And of course, regular tasks that you do, like processing invoices, you can classify them as something that you can immediately pay versus something that needs to be processed by a human. So that way you can have a faster turnaround time. Similarly, and the last line is more broad in the sense, whenever you have big data, you can use analytics and insights to plan your business strategy and also execute them. Hopefully that gives you a quick overview of what the kind of things one can do.
Sure. Very interesting. Let me just pick up the very first line that you had shown, talking about chatbots and virtual agents. I think over the last 8 to 10 years, we have seen chatbots, I think, but they have always been that you build a list of frequently asked questions. I suppose the chatbot goes and looks for similar sounding words and then throws it up. We've seen it in, I don't know, ticketing websites and things like that. So how is AI able to make this better? How does it try to understand the question?
That's a fantastic question, because I actually struggled with this a few years ago when I was running a project at the World Economic Forum on chatbots and its use in the healthcare industry, because healthcare industry is a very sensitive area where you have to be careful what you tell the patient, for example. And at that time, even at that time, which is only 5 years ago, it's what you described, namely, if you ask a question, it's going to look into a set of questions to see what's the best match. And then it's going to, give a canned answer almost, right? But today, if you have worked with ChatGPT or any of these tools, there are a number of such tools. What they do is that they quote unquote understand your question much better. I put the quote marks there because you have to be careful about using the word understanding, because none of these systems truly understand what you're saying. But it comes very close in the sense that it is able to understand the context of your question much better, and also some of the nuances of your question much better than those canned chatbots of 5 years ago. In that sense, they are using this new model of generative AI, which I'm sure we'll talk more about, which is essentially the ability of the system to on the fly generate new text versus giving canned answers. So these systems are not only able to understand your question, but also able to generate text that is meaningful and coherent and answers your questions much better.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Ratna, you had a question yesterday when we were discussing that all this AI is for public consumption.
Yeah. So, before I get into my question, the way Sundar, you are explaining, the Rajni Padatla robo chitti is not a distant thing, and probably there will be a robo sitting at everyone like an assistant, like a virtual assistant, and AI will power it. Hopefully, the emotional part, இப்போ இருக்கிற உலகத்துல மக்களுக்கு அந்த emotions வடிந்து கொண்டே இருக்கு. அந்த ரோபோவும் எமோஷனோட வந்துச்சுன்னா இன்னும் I think the world will become interesting in நினைக்கிறேன். But my question, Sundar, is most of the use cases that we have seen is for B2C. We do more on the B2B side. We drive our business more on the B2B side. And இப்போ பார்க்குற அந்த chat GPT, image generation, audio generation, video generation, it's all more relevant at the B2C level or the consumer level. But B2B at a scale where we are managing enterprises, where there is oil and gas company, chemical, petrochemical company. And if you look at how applications have been developed in the last 40, 50 years, starting from mainframe to client server to web-based, and then now it's cloud-based. So AI first applications, when will that start happening, and when will it happen at a scale for the enterprises? Was a question that I had, Doctor.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Like you point out, most of the early use case today are dealing with consumers. Either it's directly in the face of the consumers, like a chat program, or it's behind the scenes. Like when Facebook is giving you your feed, it's using AI to decide what to give you. So consumers are experiencing AI one way or the other, whether they know it or not, right? Whereas enterprises have to be much more deliberate in their use of AI. It's not given to them, right? They have to choose. They have to decide what is the best use. So that's what makes it a little bit more slower absorption within the enterprises. But as the technology matures, we are going to see more and more uses within enterprises. And I would go back to the kind of the list I showed. I think the top 2 use cases today for enterprises without a lot of experience in AI are still the document processing and virtual agents, right? Because we are all generating data, Excel spreadsheets and Word documents. And if you have a factory, you're collecting data about the product every single minute, either human generated or machine generated, sensor generated. So there's a lot of data getting generated. And the first place to look is always, where is the data, right? Because as we talked about, the modern AI is all about data. So if we can effectively use the data, that's one place where it will get a lot of traction. The other one, of course, is interacting with the customer, because customer service is the core of all businesses. So if you can improve that in some way, even 10% improvement in customer service can have a big impact on a business. So that's another place using chatbots and other techniques where you're staying connected to the customer base. But to specifically decide how to pick up what to use, I think the best opportunities in the near term are to look for solutions that are being developed for your industry vertical. You mentioned oil and gas, for example. Instead of trying to take ChatGPT and trying to use in an oil and gas situation, look for AI that is developed for oil and gas. And there are many reasons to do that, because we'll come to that perhaps later, but when you use a broad tool, it comes with its baggage, so to speak. It has its issues. You don't want to deal with it while you are trying to use it for a live business. So the best place to start is to look for tools that are custom designed for your business.
Got it. I think it makes sense with so much buzz about AI, and where do we find data models for it? And when I look at what West has and what India has in terms of data set, I think we don't have a great data set, or we are not categorizing it, we are not labeling it, we are not maintaining a proper set of data. But that's another question. But I had one more question, a follow-up question on what you said. Being in the tech space for quite some time now, been seeing lots of changes, and changes happens every 2 years or 3 years. The pace at which the change is happening with respect to tech, right? So we had blockchain coming in, then we had SMAC, which is social, mobile, analytics, and cloud coming in. Then we had digital, we had AR, VR, we had metaverse, so many things, AR, VR, and then it fades away, right? Something stays, something goes away, and the kind of hype that it creates doesn't live up to it. And then there are startups which kind of jumps into it. Like within the last 1.5 years, there's billions of dollars pumped into Gen A startups, right? And so sometimes when you look at it, it looks like an Amway scam kind of a thing. Is it really going to stay? Do we really need this? Do we need to really jump in? And it's like a breaking news. Every time an entrepreneur on the IT space, they kind of get into it and then they are like lost where to go and what to do with the kind of maturity and what happens. So what's your take on AI or AI in general, or Gen AI or assisted AI? Is it going to stay? Is it real? Is it true? I know there are lots of use cases we are seeing, but what's your take on that one?
Yeah, interesting question, Ratna, because this is not a question necessarily only about AI. It's for any technology. Like you pointed out, AR, VR, we're getting a lot of technologies thrown at us. And we are in a period of what is called as the fourth industrial revolution. Sandeep referred to the different revolutions that are happening. But if you look at even broader than that, you started with steam engines, and then you had electricity, and then you had information. So these are considered to be the first three industrial revolutions. But now you're in the fourth industrial revolution. And the thing about this today's revolution is that if you think about steam engines, it probably took several decades for it to be absorbed. Electricity took maybe less than 10 years. Information took maybe only a couple of years for everybody to start using. Now AI, it's the next day. Somebody publishes a new app, you're using it the next day. So the speed with which we are adopting is also quite scary in a way. That also causes a lot of confusion for industries and entrepreneurs such as yourselves in how do we keep up with this, right? So let me show you a chart that is quite well known. The methodology is well known. It's called the hype curve, the hype cycle, right? The Gartner hype cycle. So if you look at this chart, this you can see for many, many technologies. This one is made for artificial intelligence about a year ago. So what happens is there are like different phases a technology goes through. First, there is an innovation trigger. Somebody comes up with the idea and then they start building it and then showing it to everybody. That's where Gen AI is today. Everybody is seeing ChatGPT, right? It's an innovation trigger. And then there is a peak of inflated expectations, which means everybody thinks this is going to solve world hunger. We're going to be prosperous and everything will be solved. And then comes this trough of disillusionment when you say, oh, it's not actually as powerful as we thought. Maybe it's not as good, right? And then it starts coming down. Here, autonomous vehicle is a good example, right? It went through this hype cycle that all the cars will be driving themselves. And then we came to everybody promising that you will be able to tell the car to go and it will go. But now we're not in that situation. There's accidents, there's problems, regulators are getting concerned. So it's in this trough of disillusionment. And then what happens is you slowly come out of it. You find out the real use cases, not these peak use cases, but at least some where it is actually truly applicable. And then you get into this, what is called as the enlightenment, meaning you really understand where the technology should be used. And then you get to this productivity where it's in steady state. Like, for example, the internet and smartphones are in this area. Everybody's using it. They know what it is for. There is no high expectations. But AI is going through, you look at this left side, so many AI items are still on this curve. So it is still going up. So it is no surprise that your question comes because everybody's wondering where it's going, whether it's going to solve my problem or not. But sometimes you may have to wait to see what happens before you get there.
Right. I mean, just on this curve, it's also, generally speaking, it takes more than 10 years for the expectations to plateau and come into a better productivity.
Yeah, so you have to be careful. You have to take it with a pinch of salt. This is today, right? This is 2022. Now, if you draw this chart in 2025, these timescales might compress more because things are moving faster.
Yeah, and maybe we should look at what was this hype curve from Gartner 5 years before and do a comparison and see where we are right now.
That's a good point. We should do that.
Sure.
Before we move on to the next question, just a few information to our audiences. The chat in this webinar is disabled. So you are all requested to have the Q&A box to raise your questions. I know there are a few questions already. If time permits, we'll take up the question. Else, we will be answering the question later. Sundar will answer the question later and we'll publish it. Thank you. Yes, Ratna, over to you.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question is really what type of investments would be required for organizations to embrace AI? So is it from more in terms of monetary investment and resource investments? So what kind of investments do you think will be required? Time?
Yeah, so this is a classic question that everybody asks because at the end of the day, everything comes down to ROI, return on investment. And of course, the key word there is the investment. What is it that I should spend in order to get to a good use of AI, right? So I would say there are about several stages, technical as well as non-technical. So if you look at the most important step in that sequence, it's the data, right? So I think Ratna and others mentioned that we are collecting a lot of data, but they are not in a form that can be used, right? So making sure that the data is in a format that's cleaned up and structured is one of the highest costs because you have perhaps collected data over 10 years, 15 years. So there's a lot of it, and you will have to deal with it. Fortunately, today there are lots of tools that will help you to do this fast. It might still require a lot of human intervention, but you can do it faster than ever before. Instead of just taking an Excel spreadsheet and trying to correct it yourself, there are tools that help you to do this. That's, I would say, the primary investment for somebody getting into AI for the first time. And then, of course, it'd be good to have a data scientist or some sort of AI talent on premise. Because if you're always relying on external talent, it can become challenging as you speed up your work. So investing on a data scientist or an AI talent is another cost item, investment item. Compute power is the third one. We talked about how today's AI relies so much on the ability to consume a lot of data. But what we didn't talk about it, in order to consume all the data and train on them, you need computing power. In the olden days, you will have to buy a lot of computers and create like a data center. But today, you don't need to do that. You can actually go to cloud. And there are a lot of benefits in doing that because downtime is managed by someone else. Redundancy, storage, and safety is all managed by someone else. And you don't have to do pretty much anything except to give you a credit card, right? And in the world of AI, a lot of the training is done in systems called graphics processing units or GPUs. And those can be very expensive to buy. Similarly, using a cloud computing framework today, you can actually use GPUs on the cloud. So that's kind of the third expense. We talked about data, we talk about data science expertise, and then compute power. These are kind of the main technology items. But then you also need investment in integrating it with the rest of your systems because it cannot stand alone. It has to connect with the rest of your operations. So that's the integration expense. And finally, you have to train people to use it because it's not useful to have a system if people don't know how to use it.
I think there's some.
Yeah, I think I lost Sundar.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we
yes.
can hear you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So training, I was saying training is an important part of the cost. And last but not least, you have to have some sort of governance of the system because where it should be used, how it should be used, especially if you're dealing with sensitive data. I know that manufacturing and general businesses don't deal with sensitive data. But if you're taking customer information, you're taking customer credit cards, customer phone numbers, you have to make sure you have a method that governs the use of the AI. So these are all the various investments that one has to make.
And what you're saying kind of leads me to the next question. And I think the answer I know, that there seems to be quite a lot of investments to be done to get to embrace AI. So in that case, is it only meant for the large organizations for now? Maybe is it affordable and Is it something that SMEs can use at its current stage?
Yeah, it's a good question because SMEs are the backbone of most industries, right? Because you are supplying things in the front and on the back. And, recently there was a survey in the US, people's trust in various things. And nobody trusts the government. Nobody trusts large industries. The maximum marks were obtained by SMEs, right? 60% of the people said they trust SMEs more than even government or other organizations. So SMEs obviously are important. So the question is relevant because AI is being used by these big companies because they have the resources. What about SMEs? That's the question. The challenge for SMEs is that you usually don't have internal experts, right? You may have like a promoter who is interested in it, like the CEO or someone, but then you don't have internal expertise. And you usually cannot afford to hire consultants, right? Usually that's the way large companies get started in any new technology. They don't directly invest in it, but they hire a McKinsey or a Deloitte or BCG, these big consulting firms, to tell them how to use it. But as we all know, that is a very expensive proposition because they charge by the hour, they charge by projects, which are quite expensive. So what the SMEs can do, of course, one of the general advices for SMEs is don't jump in up front, right? Because let people bleed first and find out the problems before you jump in. That'll be number one. But once the use case is established, try to use pre-trained AI solutions, right? There are lots of solutions that are canned and available. For example, I'll give a simple example. Today, Microsoft is thinking of including AI within its Word document processing, right? So you don't have to necessarily go to ChatGPT, put your things, cut and paste and all that. So this all takes time. You wait for Word to create it, for example. So if you can afford to wait for AI models to be already integrated into things that you're using or you want to consider using. And so these Word is an example of a SaaS tool, right? There are many, many other SaaS tools, SAP and others that are embracing AI in the back. And you can consider using them. The other thing you can do is to prepare yourself by starting to collect data in a very structured manner. So even though you may not be ready to use AI, you know that AI will need data. So you can start brainstorming what data is going to be important for my business 1 year, 2 years down the line, and starting to put in place a system that collects this data in a way that is clean, structured, and labeled. Now, we didn't talk about this label part much in this discussion yet, but labeling is such a crucial part of today's AI because every single AI system you see out there requires labeled data. So if you have a bird, you need a label that it is a bird. If you have a cat, you need a label that it is a cat. The AI system uses this label as feedback to train itself. And this labeling is not an easy exercise. And it cannot be also done after the fact. So it's better to prepare now, as you start collecting data, to also label it. And labeling means what? Tagging. You tag it with the right keywords. And that way, you're getting ready for the tools when they come out.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah, thanks. அந்த காலத்துல சார் அந்த புக்ல அட்டை போட்டுட்டு ஒரு லேபிள் ஓட்டுவோம் அவ்வளவுதான் நமக்கு தெரிஞ்ச லேபிள் இப்போ வந்து you are saying we have to label everything for AI to understand. But
yes.
One question from what you said about SMEs in terms of having a data scientist or a data segregation AI model. But for people who just moved out of college and who have not got into AI as a career, before I go to my question, just what should I learn as a career? Can I look at AI as a career, and what should I learn? How do I get into this AI world and make a career out of it for the next 5, 10, 15 years? Was one thing that just occurred to me. If you can just enlighten on that.
No, that's a good question because when we all graduated in the 80s and so on, computers were the thing, right? If you wanted a good job, you wanted to learn computers. That's a very broad term, but we all figured out how. We went and took some programming courses or hands-on tried some things. And now we're in this world where that alone is not enough. because your specialty has to be something more than just a software engineer. And I think that's what you're going to. So AI is an indispensable skill today, right? If you want to be successful 5 years from now, you should be investing as an individual, no matter who you are, whether you're a new graduate or you are a business owner, everybody has to invest time in AI at different levels. If you're a new graduate and you have not done a whole lot of computing, then the first thing you learn is Python, right? You have to learn Python. If you don't learn Python, you cannot use many of the tools that are freely available. And this thing, it is free. All the resources needed to learn Python are free. In fact, you can use ChatGPT to help you learn Python because it can give you a curriculum. It can tell you what to learn first, where to learn. And then you can go to tools like GitHub, which provide a co-pilot. So while you're writing the code, it can correct it for you. So all this learning has become much faster today than ever before. We had to take a book and read in the 80s, right? And then wait for computer time so you can put your punched cards or go get the terminal, whatever it is. It was a very slow process, but today you can learn faster. And if you're a business owner, you should still be aware of what AI is and its powers. And there are various places that is available. You can go to Coursera type tools where there is very eminent people who can teach for free the concepts of AI. So I would say learning has become easier. So find the tool that you need to learn.
Sure. Thanks, Sundar. I mean, one thing that struck me was, there are, my son is a native digital and I'm a migrant digital, right? And now probably my son would be a native AI and I would be a migrant AI. But,
yes.
But so we as a company, just extending that from a career perspective where you're saying, go ahead and get your hands onto Python and Coursera and things like that. But we started the company like 16, 17 years back. And we suddenly, when I look back, we are like a brick and mortar on the SAP side. Of course, SAP is doing its bit to get the Gen AI and other things as part of their product. And from a consumer perspective, the documentation processing and all that looks good. But from a service provider perspective, right, from a monetization perspective, from a business provider perspective, all the biggies are strengthening themselves. Like we have heard about Accenture training 2.5 lakh people in Gen AI to leverage the business. So for someone of our size or the smaller size, what do you think should we be doing to migrate ourselves or get ready for this AI that's coming way in terms of providing services or products? What would be your like how you said, okay, go read Python, do Coursera, get some data analytics thing. What is the advice for us?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I want to make a comment on something you said in the beginning about the AI native and the migrant AI. I was having lunch with a friend of mine who has a 2-year-old son and 2 or 3 year olds, very young person. He was telling his father, the garage door is not opening, right? In the US, there are garage doors, people park cars inside. So garage door is not opening. So he said, why do you say that? And he said, well, I went to the garage door and asked open and it didn't open, right? This is the expectation that the new generation has, that you should be able to talk to everything and it should understand what you're saying. And this is not even a joke. It's a real thing, right? So it's amazing what the expectation of the next generation will be and whether we can, the technology can live up to that or not. So, but coming back to your question about IT service provider or software product company, it's a good point you raised about companies like Accenture because, traditionally they only provided the advice. They generated PowerPoint charts, right? That's what their business was. You come in, generate PowerPoint charts, charge them whatever $1 million and walk away, and left them holding the PowerPoint charts trying to figure out what to do with it. But now they are realizing there's much more money to be had in actually implementing the solutions. So they are growing their teams that are actually implementing AI and other technologies. So what, as an IT service provider or software product company, how can you embrace it? So, the first thing I would say is that you have to be a consumer first, right? You cannot just jump into using AI for your company if you yourself don't understand what it is. I'm not saying you should do all the tools, understand everything, but at least you have to have an awareness of what is the power by using it yourself, right? You can, today, there are many, many tools that are free, or they are in the freemium mode, where you can use it for free up to a certain amount, and then you have to pay. So to get comfortable with the product, so as a head of the business, for example, if you're telling others, you should be able to have knowledge about it. Then the next thing is, of course, to upskill the team about, I think Gen AI is the topic that you're quite interested in, to upskill them about the Gen AI capabilities. Internal training, there are systems that are widely becoming available, DALI, GPT-3, AlphaCode. These can be trained. The systems, the training is mostly free. So that is relatively straightforward to do. The next thing I would say is to identify high return on investment cases, use cases, because we talked about investment, many things you have to invest in. So the first thing to ask is, analyze the processes and products that you have to pinpoint where Gen AI could have the most value, right? Content generation or coding or personalization, wherever that is, to pick that. And then I would say start small, start with a piloted experimentation like you yourself are doing, you had told at the beginning. And one thing that is often overlooked is that IT service providers and software companies can actually enhance their own products with the Gen AI enabled services, right? Even though you may have to pay for it at the back end, because every time you make a call to OpenAI, you're paying whatever, 1 rupee or something, right? So, but in order to do that, you have to think about first what kind of use it can, impact it can have on your customer population, and then make it available through your services.
Sure, got it. I mean, I think one of few things that we are already trying, as Shiv said, was on the marketing in terms of generating some content and and videos, and then also on the customer service, and then few things, very early stages for the developers to try and see if they can leverage on the Copilot in GitHub and try and see if they can drive it. So those are things that we are trying in an impromptu way, I would say, not in a very streamlined process, but we've been trying it here and there. So that's something that we are doing. But generally speaking, for the SMEs, Sundar, apart from the customer service, marketing, are there any other areas that we should look at in terms of leveraging it for our business? Where, I mean, the end of the day, it has to have an impact on the top line or optimize on the cost or the efficiency part for the SMEs. Having the governance and compliance is for the large enterprise. But generally, we are looking at how do we ensure that the revenue goes up, or how do I optimize? Where I have like 10 people, can I do it with like 4 or 5 people and get a better result? So SMEs, I know this question is related to what Shiv was asking, but are there any other use cases at top of your head, Sundar, for the SMEs that we could leverage immediately?
Yeah, what I would say is that use cases are enormous, right? There's lots of use cases. And the challenge is to find, I would say, more than looking at a big list of use cases, the challenge, I think, is to find what is applicable to you as a business, right? And you spoke like a true profit and loss leader, which is what affects my top line, what affects my bottom line, right? Because those are the only two things that matter in a business. Top line can be impacted through improving your revenue and growing your business. Bottom line can be impacted by improving the efficiency in the business using AI tools. I would say, I advocate like a 7-step process for businesses that are trying to adopt tools like AI. And the first 2 steps are very important. The very first step is to ask yourself, where do I want to be when I grow up, right? Meaning, in 5 years from now, what should my business look like? That is the most important question. And if you can close your eyes and visualize, not by yourself, but with the right set of people in the room, that sets your milestone where you want to go to. And the next question you want to ask is that, what are my pain points in my day-to-day operations? So these two, in a way, address those two, top line and bottom line, right? But what you want to do is to then pick the projects that address the pain points while improving your top line. So that's usually the technique that I recommend.
Absolutely. I think most of the entrepreneurs have let go of problem and stays as a problem, but there is a solution right now because of the cloud, because of the internet, because of the AI model. And the matured one, which is solving problems, should be the one that we should embrace as an SME and see if we can slap it on the existing data and resolve it. That's a good way of driving it. Thanks, Sundar. Sandeep, how are we doing on time? I know myself and Shiv will keep talking forever, but
I know it is very interesting, and the way how Sundar explains very clearly, we're able to understand each and every word of what he says. Sundar, how are you on time? Because we can go on for another 10 minutes if it's okay with you.
Absolutely. It's a morning time here, so the whole day is open in front of me.
Okay. Ratna, we can go for another 10 minutes.
Okay. Shiv, do you want to go ahead and ask some?
Yeah, I'll probably pop in one important question. I think when it comes to AI, I feel that's the elephant in the room. I think you briefly touched upon it at the beginning as well about privacy, right? I have a few of these echo dots at home, and I'm always worried that, okay, as I speak, while you can put it on mute, I don't know if it's listening to me and what it knows about me. Right. And so, and I don't want to use the word Alexa because it's now going to wake up when I say this word around here. So that's the amount it's listening to. So what happens in AI really, and then how safe is the information?
It's a very good question, and it's a very sensitive topic, right? The short answer is it depends on the service you use, right? So the challenge is we are using these devices at home that are providing a lot of useful service to us, right? For example, my mother lives thousands of miles away from me, and she's an older person. I have the same device as you with the camera on it, so I can talk to her very easily. It's a life changer for me, right? I couldn't have done that, 5-10 years ago. So it provides a lot of service, closeness to people, access and all that. But at the same time, the background question is always, what happens to the information that it's collecting? Right? It's looking at the image of my mother. Where is that going, right? It's listening to your commands. Where is that going? This is a question that has been at the forefront. I think I showed in the chart, responsible AI, which started appearing a few years ago. And in fact, there are lots of organizations working on this particular topic. And I am currently part of one of the organizations that Sandeep mentioned at the beginning. It's called the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. I am part of the Responsible AI Working Group. And our whole purpose in that group is to make sure as governments adopt technologies, AI technologies, how do we make sure that people's privacy, people's sense of who they are, identity are not violated, right? The systems can very easily do that. And we have tons of examples of systems have gone off the rails, having done all of these things, right? But I think we are slowly turning around the corner now, because there's a lot more, at least at the level of acknowledging there is a problem, the big businesses are understanding it. A good example is, for example, OpenAI, a couple of months ago committed that the data that you provide to ChatGPT, for example, is not going to be used to train the system, right? Especially if you're a business user. So if you're a business user and you're paying for the service, your contract now includes term that it says ChatGPT will not store your data and use it to train the system. Because it's quite conceivable, Ratna says something about his business that suddenly appears in some other's answer, right? You don't want that. That's an information privacy question. So what is happening is that you as a user of the system should typically try to use the reputable services, like the one that are in the public scrutiny, like OpenAI, Google, or Microsoft. They usually cannot do things and get away with it. So there is a lot of scrutiny on them. The other thing you can do is to review the policy, of course, before you sign a contract. So that's something difficult to do because we typically scroll through 10 pages and hit the agree button, but at least give it to a lawyer and see, hey, I'm concerned about information privacy. Can you read this and tell me if my information will be compromised? So you can take steps like that today.
There are few questions which are coming from the audience. So
Yes.
I will take a couple.
Okay.
Because there are Quite a few of them is coming
Yeah,
through.
I think we should answer those questions then we ask them questions. I think we should jump to the audience questions.
It is from
Absolutely.
Kadiravan Subramaniam. Is it enterprises will start creating their own LLM to use it for various purposes within themselves? What are your views on this, Sundar?
It's already happening, right? Because LLMs are, first of all, LLMs, which stands for large language models, which is behind ChatGPT and other such programs. In fact, the LLM behind ChatGPT is called GPT, GPT-3 and GPT-4. The challenge in creating LLMs is that it requires access to enormous amount of textual information, right? We talked about before, OpenAI claims it used all data on the internet to train its system. So it requires ridiculous amounts of data, but also a large amount of compute power in order to process this data to train the LLM. It is really not practical, even for large enterprises today, to create their own LLMs because of these two reasons. But there's something else you can do. There's something called pre-trained models. So what happens is there are companies, not OpenAI, because they are not making their GPT available to you as a model to further train. But there are open source companies. You should look up a company called Hugging Face, for example. They provide interface to existing models as well as pre-trained models that you can further train. And this is going to be the trend where you as a company don't want to go outside with your data, but what you do is you take a pre-trained model and you further train on your own data, your own frequently asked questions, your own information, and then make that available to your customers or for internal use. I think that's going to be, at least in the short term, the big use case for adopting LLMs in companies.
Thanks, Sundar. There is one interesting and very light-hearted question here. Will the AI chatbot reduce 10 irrelevant questions it asks and demand you to press from 1 to 10 number, and at the end tells you to wait for the human operator to give the answer?
Yeah, there's always this worry that the chatbot will run you, right, rather than you running the chatbot.
I think you gave answer before for this. What would be a few steps a company can take to gather data and get ready for AI deployment to the company? This is from Polymer Rao. I think you answered that already.
Thank you, Polymer. Good to get a question from
Sandeep,
you.
Madhav Rao, Polymer Rao is Madhav Rao, ABC member, our batchmate from Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, so every business is collecting data, right? Because you are, whether you like it or not today, every time you press a save button, you are collecting data. The question is, how do you make it in such a way that you turn it consciously into something that you can use later, besides just saving it and forgetting about it, right? And we talked about it before. One of the simple things to look for is that whatever data you're saving using a method, does it allow me to label it, right? That's the simplest thing you can do. Can I add a tag to it? And we used to do this. Now the systems have gotten better. Photos used to have tags. You can add tags. But now they have AI built in, so they tag themselves. But in order to get there, they had to use the one that had tags before, right? So the similar way, as you're saving data, ask yourself, how can I tag my data? Now, there's no universal answer to this, depending on your data, depending on how you collect it. If it is a sensor that you're collecting in your factory, work with the sensor provider to add tags to it, right? If it is data that you yourself are generating, ask yourself, what can I meaningfully attach as labels to this data? That's the way you can start. The second thing you want to do is to make sure it is structured. So sometimes it may take a little bit more effort. Let's say you're creating an Excel spreadsheet, and if you're just typing in information in it, it may take a few more minutes to create columns with some labels on top, but that will pay off a lot. Just having that structure to your data and having labels to your data are two places where you can start creating information that is consumable in the future in a meaningful way.
Okay, thank you. There is a question from AG Ravi. I'm in oil and gas industry. In what way the AI will benefit me? You touched the topic, but did not elaborate.
Okay. No, oil and gas is a
answer now,
very...
Sundar, or we can also send him a response later if it is a larger response.
Sandeep, 3 or 4 our batchmates are already in this question and answer. AG Ravi, Shekhar,
Okay.
Balivar, Rao,
Yeah,
and
we can
Freddy,
certainly
Durai
we can
Babu.
certainly answer afterwards. But just a quick answer is, obviously oil and gas is a very important backbone of the globe, given the amount of energy that we consume that comes from oil and gas. It's an industry that I'm a little bit familiar with. I work with them. But the general answer is oil and gas uses, in fact, let me roll back a little bit. From my experience working with oil and gas, I do know that it is one of the industries that is most reluctant to use new technology. And the phrase they use is, if it is not broken, don't fix it, right? So so if it is working, don't worry about it. Don't try to throw new technology at it. So it's actually a good example of an industry where things get absorbed, much later than others. But today, what is happening is, if you look at the sensors and the kind of software services that they use, they come with built-in AI. So whether they directly use it as the front runners of AI, they're also using in the sensor data for their wells and processing the flow rates and so on. They're already starting to use this in an indirect manner through the services that they use. And we can offline answer more about this as well.
Okay, that would be good, Sundar. There is one information from Durai Babu, which is interesting. There are more than 8,500 AIs. Please have a look at there is an AI for that.com.
Yes, but he typed it about 3 minutes ago, right? I'm sure there is 10 more already in that list since he looked at it.
Okay. So there are a few more. I think for want of time, maybe we may have to answer them later. Ratna or Shiva, would you want to have the final question to Sundar? Ratna, your concern for humanity.
No, I think so. I'll do the final question. Shiv, is that okay?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So the other day, myself and Mar and Salva, we were just trying to plot a timeline of who we are and where we come from, and it was just a coincidence or interesting thing that we spoke 2 days ago about the timeline. If you have to put a timeline of when the Big Bang Theory happened, the singularity that happened like 14 billion years ago, which is like 1,400 crore years ago, and where we are right now, and to give a perception of what gets into our head and how we assume that we are big, and how we have to stay humble and we are nothing compared to the galaxy and the Milky Way and the universe, and we are nothing in terms of the knowledge that we carry and things like that. And then you talk about the singularity in AI and what has happened to the human race in the last 500 or 1,000 years with the human intelligence, and now you bring in artificial intelligence, and then it can achieve singularity, and singularity meaning it can become more powerful than the regular normal human being. And what happens to us? Will it be like a Arnold Schwarzenegger thing, like a Terminator coming and machines ruling the world and all humans going and hiding? Or what do you see of the future? Say in another 20 years and maybe 100 years. What's your view on that, Sundar? That
Wonderful
question.
Wonderful question, Ratna. In fact, சொல்லுவாங்களே கற்றது கையளவு கல்லாதது உலகளவு. So we know very little, right, about the universe. In fact, the James Webb Space Telescope was launched in December, and we are discovering new things, new galaxies, new ways the worlds are forming. So it's infinite, the universe of knowledge is. But what we are doing is creating this kind of a tool that could create havoc for ourselves. So if there's anybody to blame, it'll be us, right? It's not the nature that's creating this tool. So that's one point. The other point is, it's a good question. In fact, there's debates all over, polarizing debate. There are people who are convinced that we should do something today to prevent this technology from destroying humanity. Several leading scientists and academicians signed a moratorium on stopping the development of new language models a couple of months ago. So there are people quite concerned about this. They are thinking that this is going out of control. But I think equally enthusiastic is the other side of the coin. People who are not worried about it at the moment. We just have good technology. We should use it to improve everything. So at this point, there is no good answer on which one is going to win. And we may never know it until it happens. As you pointed out, the movies, Rajinikanth movies and others are showing a future where it could be positive, and then the Terminator type things where it could be totally bad. The question is open at this point, I think. Personally, I think we will not know until some time from now. When artificial general intelligence becomes possible, more than the capability of artificial intelligence, is when I think we will have to start worrying about it.
Sandeep, can I make a comment?
Yes, Srinivasan.
Yeah, sorry, it's not taking it. I mean, because
Can you switch
Ratna
to
touched
video?
on the point and Sundar reacted. So, I mean, I just saw the two polls are, one by Yuval Noah Harari, who said the AI has hacked the operating system of the human civilization. Okay, that's on the one side. And then on the other side, and I see a book by Robert Marx, Non-Computable You. And so he says, well, what you do, that AI never will. And so can it overtake human beings? He argues it cannot, because consciousness, feeling, free will, creativity, and these things are beyond the reach of AI. That's what he argues. But then, these are two excellent, exceptional people telling two different things. And so, we have to wait and see. I mean, it's in continuation of what you said.
Yeah, thank you, Srinivasan. I think let me take 1 minute. The whole thing started with the French scientist named Descartes, D-E-S-C-A-R-T-E-S. Descartes is how it's pronounced. He is the first one who introduced the concept of mind is different from body, right? In the Western philosophy. Of course, in the Eastern philosophy, this has been studied thousands of years. But the reason I bring up the Western philosophy by Descartes is because that started driving science in the West. The idea that everything is mechanical, the way the brain works is basically a bunch of gears, that if you turn the right way, we can mimic the way the brain works. And that is what has led to this whole technology. The belief is that you can reduce everything to instructions and actions, which are mechanical. And so there's a part of the Western atheistic philosophy that says that's all there is. There's nothing more. So there is this concept of I can upload my mind, I can live forever. All this is people believe in these things. But the open question is that true?
Yeah. Interesting. I think, we can keep talking. This is interesting subject, and there's so much of how it's going to pan out in the coming years, in the near future, over a period of, if you take a view of next 200 years, how things will change, and the predictions that everyone is making itself is making it interesting to understand and read more about it. But I think we can continue. We love doing this, but I think we'll have to stop it because of the lack of time. I think we already overshot by 30 minutes, but people have stayed back. Before I do the vote of thanks, is there anything Sandeep, Shiv, Panisa, Srini, or Sundar want to say? Otherwise,
we are getting an excellent feedback from all quarters in all platforms. So, Sundar, lots of appreciation to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
I think even now, when attendees went up to 53, and now even 40 people are still listening to this almost classroom type of discussions. They could patiently listen to it. In fact, offline also they are saying it's very interesting. A lot of your example about the boy is also generating a lot of interest in people. Thank you so much, Sundar, Ratna, Shiv, Srinivasan sir, and Sandeep. for creating such a wonderful discussions. Thank you for all of your time. Thank you. On
Thank you,
behalf of
Sundar,
ABC and
so much.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just do a formal vote of thanks
if the interest is more on, maybe we can request again Sundar after some months to touch upon this.
I'm definitely going to fix up a time with him and talk more. I really enjoyed. I mean, I've listened to lots of videos and audio, but the perspective and how he explains, how he brings it to the table is really something that anyone can understand. Right? I mean, சுகாசினி ஒரு படத்துல பாடுவா பாமரருக்கும் புரிஞ்சுக்கிற மாதிரி பாடு அப்படிமா சிவகுமார் அது என்ன படம்னு தெரியல பட் அதே மாதிரி Sindhu Bhairavi. So you were able to explain in different spectrum in terms of what it is. But the important point is to make this community understand that there's something happening, right? I mean, the people who are in the IT who learn a bit here and there in the impromptu way. And then there are users like ChatGPT users who think that there is something happening. But then to have a better perspective from where it is going and everyone should try and see, because longevity is going to be there. No one is going to retire. I think they're talking about 100 as the new 60, right? And in the coming years. So I think we should pick it up and see what we could do in terms of healthcare and things like that. So in that sense, at least introduction for people who are just getting into it for the first time. And then there are lots of takeaways for people who want to drive their business. Lots of takeaway for people who want to start a career on this one. So very interesting. I would definitely be happy to do a AI 2 with Sundar, but then we'll see how things go. But honestly, thank you very much, Sundar, for spending the time with us.
My pleasure.
It means a lot to us for the ABC as well, which has been trying to promote the business. And thanks Shiv, thanks Sandeep, thanks Srinivasan sir, thanks Mani sir. It's an amazing platform. I think we should keep doing more, helping the community in terms of what is happening at the tech level and how we could leverage it for business, leverage it for the larger good as well. So with that, I would like to end this session. Thank you, Ravi and Karthik, for helping us in terms of driving it as well.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you all audience for patiently listening to this. Your interest only will drive us to conduct such more sessions. We invite more alumni to join ABC. That is the purpose of this webinar. We look forward more women entrepreneurs also to join. Currently, we are 52. We want to grow more than 150 in next 1 year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you all.
Sundar.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank
It was
you.
a wonderful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.